strange and exotic random book review. Now this was a reviewer copy, and I got an email because I'd finally set up sort of a, thing that you do on like Amazon, a profile, because I'm like, well, if I know I like looking at the reviews on something, and if it's going to suck or not suck, I mean, that does help decide what I, if I'm going to buy it or not. So I figured, well, least I can do is offer a review in return. So okay, I set that up, and I get an email not too long afterwards saying, from an author who is W. Bradford Swift, saying that, okay, I noticed that you liked Talisman, and I'm writing, I've written something in a similar vein I thought you might like. So, would you mind reviewing it? And I'm like, okay, sure, I prefer Kindle copy and that type of thing, but I told him, it's like, you're going to get the good and the bad. Don't think you're going to come to me going, oh, please give me a wonderful review. No, I'm going to read it. If I don't like it, I'm going to say it. So, I warned him ahead of time. So, I went through the book, and it being a young adult book, I went through it within like a week or so. And it is Divine Destiny, Book 1 of the Amberlin series. And there isn't really a cover to it, but that's and it's like $3 or $4 on Amazon. And like I put in my other, my actual written reviews, it's like I have a love-hate relationship with this. I think I am the wrong individual to like read this book, because I know people that are like hyper-Christian that, are so caught up in trying to do God's will. Unless he's sending you faxes from heaven, how do you quite know that? People who justify the creepiest things because it's God's will. So, in the book, there's a community basically of these people, and it's set in like the 40s and 50s, which is kind of a hard thing for me to kind of wrap myself around, so I'm trying to picture that. And he described it as sort of a paranormal type of thing, but there was very little of that in the book. Amberlin and her family don't seem to have cats. Especially the women in the family have basically superpowers. It's very mildly dealt with. I mean, this is the first book of the series, so it just sort of gives you little hints here and there. It doesn't like have to explain anything being the book, but I wish it kind of went more into that. As far as the supernatural powers, supposedly, there's like telekinesis and telepathy. Your sort of basics, but it's not really. The main point is basically, these people have this power. Whoa. Well, of course, being in this hyper-Christian community, if you're anything remotely outside the status quo, you're possessed by demons. And they're, I guess, in the South. I can't remember if it specifically said whereabouts in the South, but it was like, Southern polite. Being in the Northeast, I have no idea what that means. So, you have this hyper-Christian community, this family with superpowers, and there's this one person that is like the Winnowill of this group. She is psycho on so many levels, and the book, unfortunately, spends more time with this woman that I could not stand. I wanted to just collectively bitch slap this person. So that's why I kind of struggled through the book, because he spent more time with the bad guys and the weird hyper-Christians than the character that the book is built on. The plot, though, was interesting. Amberlin having to learn about her powers and dealing, working with her grandfather, yet her grandmother's one of the hyper-Christians, but there's a whole kind of backstory there, and everything sort of comes to a head. And another thing, and I understand being sort of an intro book, where once you get into the rhythm, it's not too bad, but you start off with Amberlin. Then you end up with her friend's family. Then you end up with a psycho bitch. And then you end up with, like, at the asylum. There's very closed sections that eventually do sort of meet, so I kind of understand, but it kind of takes you a while to kind of get into the rhythm of the book. But once you do that, it's, you know, a good read and kind of keeps you on your toes, and it's a very interesting story. But it's just, I could not stand... So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing when the villains annoy you to that level where you're like... So if the themes of the rest of the books are like that, I most likely won't read them, because it's like... You don't get enough... You know enough of the characters to kind of like, okay, good guy, bad guy, whatever, but... The villain just overwhelmed the book, which was really, really sad. Kind of wish they spent more time with, like, Amberlin and her grandfather, other than, like, the one scene with the cards. So, like I said, I have a love-hate relationship. It was a good book, but it annoyed me. So it was like, how do you... Yeah. So, but, I think the younger crowd would probably, you know, appreciate it, especially when you don't, you know, see it from my point of view, from like the religious aspect of it. So it would be a fun book for people a little bit younger and less jaded than I am. So it's definitely worth a try. Check it out on Amazon. Divine Destiny, Book 1 of the Amberlin series. And I just love that name, Amberlin. By W. Bradford Swift. And he wrote this in 2014. And the beginning of each chapter starts off with like a little quote. And chapter 1 starts off with, "There are only 2 ways in life to live. There are only 2 ways to live your life." Same difference. "One as though nothing is a miracle. The other as though everything is a miracle." Albert Einstein. And the community is called Golden Acres. I will never live in that place like that. So, that is my opinion on the Amberlin Book 1. Thank you for watching. Do remember to comment, rate, share, and subscribe. There's always room for more at the Strange and Exotic. See you next time. Bye. I'm gonna let me have my chair so I can feel my legs again.